at a convention.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I call to order the September 4th, 2024 public hearing and regular meeting of the Committee on Administration, Finance, Law, and Public Services. The time is now 6:35 p.m. Ms. Clerk, will you kindly please call the roll?
Alderman Connors.
Present.
Alderwoman Barbosa. Alderman McNamara.
Here.
Alderman Santiago.
Present.
Alderman Simpson.
Present.
Alderman Gibson.
Here.
Alderman Pabon. Alderman Smedley. Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra.
Here.
Alderman Russell.
Here.
You have a quorum. Also seated is Alderman Scott.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk.
And Alderman Russell's here as the alternate for Alderman Smedley, just for the record.
Thank you. Do I have a motion regarding the legal notice?
Motion to waive the reading of the...
I have a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice. Do I have a second? Seconded by Alderman Simpson. Motion to waive made by Alderman Santiago. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay.
No, joking.
Thank you. All right. Motion carries. The reading is waived.
Unanimous for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah. Having been noticed properly, we'll begin the public hearing. Please remember to state your name and address for the record and limit your speaking time to 3 minutes. The item for public hearing tonight is item number 36576, cooperative agreement with the New Britain Housing Authority and JHM Group establishing a 39-year payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreement of $750 per rental unit. I have one signed up speaker on the list tonight, Mr. John Christopic, sorry, John, of 292 Linwood Street.
Good evening. Hope everyone had a nice summer. Sorry, if you could just turn the mic on, please. Should be a base.
The little mouth.
Yeah, I did.
All right. Thank you. John Christopic, 292 Linwood. JHM Group from Stamford. I haven't seen too much information about this. I'm just wondering, did this go out to bid? Are these the only people that are involved in this project? It sounds like a good deal. My question is, for whom? The developer or the taxpayers of New Britain? Now, if they were to pay property tax of $750, the value of each unit would be $27,062. Sounds like the amount of money for a nice car. I did a little research. They did quite a few complexes in Hartford, Bridgeport. They did one down in Bridgeport, Crescent's Crossing, Father Panic Village. I had a friend that lived there and visited him in the 80s. That place was the pits. They knocked it down in 1986. They started building in 2016 with 5 phases. Let's see. They completed the 2nd phase just recently, and now they're starting on the 3rd phase out of 5. They were trying to get funding. At least that's what I could, looking up, that's what I could find out. I guess they're planning on spending around $39 million for phase 3, with 2 more phases to go. Hopefully, this project doesn't take as long. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any other speakers for this item? Are there any other speakers for this item? Are there any other speakers for this item? Seeing no more speakers, we will close the public hearing and move on to the regular meeting. The time is now 6:40 PM. Right. The item on the agenda tonight is item number 36576, cooperative agreement with the New Britain Housing Authority and JHM Group establishing a 39-year payment in lieu of taxes, pilot agreement of $750 per rental unit. May I have a motion?
So moved with a neutral recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion to refer with a neutral recommendation made by Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra, seconded by Alderman Santiago, sorry, beat you. Any discussion on the item?
Mr. Chairman, just a question. We were just handed a revised version, so do we need any kind of an amendment to this? Because it's like,
It could be introduced as a substitute point of information.
Jack, is this from you?
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I'll call Mr. Benjamin up for the item.
Good evening. Yeah, so this revised resolution, just, there were a couple points of clarification. We wanted to list the properties' addresses. We removed one erroneous piece that referenced the property's valuation, which neither the state nor local ordinance that authorizes pilot deals to be made references. And then we referenced the existing cooperation agreement under which pilots have been established in the past, which this is going to at least partially supplant fully in regards to the Mount Pleasant project.
Okay, so then I make a motion that we accept this as substitute language and then discuss the substitute language.
I have a motion to accept the substitute language made by Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra, seconded by Alderman Russell. I think it was a squeaker. Any discussion on the
Yes.
motion?
Well,
On the amendment, significant changes are to the resolution we were given, so could I respectfully request a 5-minute recess?
5-minute recess.
Second that?
Seconded.
why don't we just have them explain?
No, I'd rather read this out by myself first.
Okay.
All in favor of a 5-minute recess?
Aye.
Aye.
All right?
All opposed? 5-minute recess starting at 6:43.
People are confused between those two languages. Tax abatements and storming are two separate things. And this resolution is together, it's like one thing, pilot, it's really a tax abatement.
Well, it's not really a tax abatement. It's not a tax abatement. Where do you tax abatement?
No, on the paperwork that was handed to us, explaining the housing authority.
What is that technically stating?
What's the paper?
That's erroneous. This is not, this is a pilot, meaning the housing authority doesn't have to pay anything. They could get away with not paying anything.
So why then are we doing that?
Because there's a state statute that allows us. 8-58, 22-9 is the local ordinance that allows
Jack,
us.
not so fast.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
remember, you're talking to ladies. You
Oh,
are
I'm sorry.
the, we are the ducks.
Certainly. No, I
Okay.
No. 8-58 is the state statute that allows pilots, it authorizes localities, municipalities, towns and cities to enter into payment in lieu of tax agreements with housing authorities, specifically with housing authorities. If that didn't exist, housing authorities would not have to pay that. So because this exists, and because we are working directly with the housing authority, we have agreed upon the $750 per unit payment, which is supplanting a previous cooperation agreement that had established a pilot.
Now, but the 750 is not actually the housing authority paying for it. It's this. Who's actually paying for it?
It is the housing authority.
Because what happens is when you do a rent, the housing authority has to enter into an agreement, they still own the land. The buildings still own the land, the man can never go back, the housing authority is always own the land. Okay, it's a many year ground lease. So what happens is, what mandates that we enter into an agreement, and start an LLC, with J.H. It only proper that something is getting back to the city for their support and bus
That's just for clarification. Where's the state tax being moved?
Yeah, where's that paper? That's this paper is handed to us tonight. Oh, it talks all about the housing.
That's an old agreement. That's an old agreement. The only thing that needs to be, there's one single thing that needs to be done for this agreement, and that is striking out these two things. That no longer apply under this agreement.
Under this agreement, because that's going to.
Bingo, the new one. No, this is just authorizing the city to remove that
Okay,
with the
so
housing.
when you get up, you need to explain on this paper, is just because that's also actually.
Of course.
Okay, this was your copy. Okay. So.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we were going to use the same item. We're used to, the state of Connecticut, they just say sequel taxes. So, yeah,
Yeah. And it goes directly to finance.
Should it be in there? No. That's why they all stir about that.
Oh, yeah, from market rates.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, certainly. No.
So we have J, H. Oh, very good, sir.
Right, I know. It's easier when you're at night, yes. But not necessarily now. Right.
It's coming from tax credits.
Oh, my
Well,
God.
it's more complicated. So Laura also mentioned RAD. I don't know if we want to go into that's rental assistance demonstration, which is the initial federal cause money that got this whole thing started. And that has a really complex, I don't know if I can begin to explain it later in the questions with RAD, but
So let me ask you a question. Let's say this state on that. What will we get?
much less. It's hard to quantify because it changes a little bit every year. It's based on something called shelter grant, which is a capture of the entire housing authorities. That's what that.
Your whole portfolio is not based on individual development. Whereas this one now is just, you'll still get your shelter and all the other developments, but this plus is this.
Yes.
So next thing you get more money than you are, yes, you are in the process. Getting more, also offering your tenants.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just want to make sure, because we're not enough here, it really is one to one, so every tenant who lives there now has the opportunity to come back to the place.
Oh, yeah, we definitely were not iffy about that. That's always been the case.
That's not
Yeah.
even a decision, that's a HUD decision. And when we, the reason why we do RAD, well, the reason why we do RAD is because under RAD is the federal law, that they have to be given the right to push motions. But any other development is up to the code, that's up to the JJ, or what the developer is, yeah, or the housing, or the housing authority approved that, because it's based on past performance.
I'm the shepherd of this cat.
I
tell him we burned through our 5, so.
We're not displacing people, we're not bringing in
It's like karate though. She like karate him. He tried to karate her, and then she karate him back. Yeah. So yeah, it's like it's revisions. It's not bullets.
I'm thinking Willie. Willie.
Oh, you think he will?
Look at the other Willie.
Nobody's a better one.
So we're going to get Mr. Willie to say yes.
You still haven't found it, huh?
No.
Just knock 3 times.
Yep. All right.
You did.
That brief 5-minute recess. Thank you all.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to return back from recess.
I have a motion to return seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, back to the item 36576 regarding the 39-year pilot agreement. Any further discussion, or do we have, forgive me, we have substitute language that has been moved to be replacement language. That's where we left off, correct? And did I have a second on that?
I believe you did.
I had a second by Alderman Russell.
And Mr. Chairman, maybe just to save us a round of questioning, if we could have Mr. Benjamin and Ms. Woody both just come and kind of
Sure.
explain this to us,
Sure.
and that might alleviate some questions that we
Yeah,
have.
before members begin questions, let's have a brief presentation. Thank you.
Sure. So we want to go over the whole thing, or do we want answers about the substitute language?
I would say, why don't you start with the substitute language, and then if people don't raise their hands, we'll work their way into the background.
Okay. So the First Amendment adds, under the second whereas, the scope of which includes real property. Fairly self-explanatory. That is, 100 Richard Street is the address of the current Mount Pleasant Village project. 62 Bond is the elderly housing. 157, 11, 29, 35, 41, and 47 Armistice Streets. I'm sorry, 62 Bond plus 15, that's not the Bond Street, that is the elderly housing. 62 Bond, 157, 11, 29, 35, 41, 47 Armistice Street are all the Stanley Black & Decker donated parcels on which there will be future development. We are removing under the sixth whereas, pilots are not based on a property's valuation produced during a tax agreement period. That was just an erroneous inclusion. The eighth whereas is an addition. This references the existing cooperation agreement, which will be at least partially supplanted by the new cooperation agreement. Very specifically, the only thing that needs to be done to the existing cooperation agreement is remove references to Mount Pleasant, because that is no longer going to be governed under the existing cooperation agreement. That will be supplanted by the new cooperation agreement.
And just so everyone knows, that was handed out to us, so he's referencing the handout that came our way.
The seventh whereas is just specifying the date that this will go into effect. And then the final whereas, because the existing cooperation agreement will also be subject to amendment, that includes a reference to the 2012 cooperation agreement.
Looks through you, Mr. Chairman. If we could have Mr. Benjamin just talk a little bit about pilot. As I was explaining to you during the recess, most of us think of pilot as state reimbursing us for property we can't tax. Can you talk about pilot as it relates to the housing authority?
Certainly. So pilots are authorized for municipalities to execute with housing authorities under 8-58 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Our local ordinance that gives us that power is 22-9 of the Code of Ordinances. Payments in lieu of taxes, if these didn't exist, the housing authority would pay nothing on this property. This is not a tax abatement, this is not a tax deal, it's not a modification, it is a payment in lieu of taxes, meaning if this does not go into effect, the housing authority shall pay nothing on this property.
Please continue.
So can you, and maybe this is a question for Ms. Woody, if the housing authority could, and I don't mean it the way it sounds, but get away with not paying us anything, why is there an agreement where the housing authority is willing to pay us $750 per unit?
I'm happy to let Ms. Woody handle some of this. The city is also a partner in this development project. So we are going after grants in partnership. We assisted them with the entitlements process, which many of you were present for. The city's been an active partner in this, and this is part of our deal.
And we have money invested too, do we not? Don't we have $1 million, or we're trying to?
You also broker a land deal
Yep.
with us and, between us and Stanley Black & Decker. So it wouldn't be fair not to pay something for all the help that the city has given us. And so we met with Mr. Benjamin. $750 seemed like a fair amount in lieu of all the help that you all have given us per unit on a per phase basis.
And just my final one before I
Final,
hear
and then
Alderman McNamara groaning, so I know he wants to get in there. I just want to say,
We'll get to you.
I heard sounds from that end of the, 750 is actually a fairly good per unit pilot. I would, it's not a tax modification, so I don't want to say it that way, but we have had market rate units that have come in for less. So for the housing authority and the city, and I don't know if JHM, maybe you can answer that too, is part of this coming up with this amount of money. I think it's a fairly good deal. Can you explain where the money actually comes from, Ms. Woody?
The money will come from out of our operating budget. It will come from, it'll be a mixture of rents paid and federal funds that come into the program.
Thank you very much.
Alderman McNamara.
Thank you, and thanks, Ms. Woody and Jack, for being here. Well, the first question is, why the 39 years? Why did you pick my age for this agreement?
Is there a multiplier in there, John?
So we are required to have it last the length of the loan. The length of the loan is typically 40 years. However, the state has an ordinance that makes us not be able to go past 39. So we always get that one, Connecticut gets that 1 year free without having to have the guarantee of this, the rents, the taxes not ever going up for the life of the loan, which is why it's 39 years.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And to 8-58 that Jack referenced, this law stipulates there's 4 types of housing. Moderate rentals.
Yep.
That my guess would be on that new plot of land by a private developer at 12.5% of the annual rent of occupied units, and the elderly, state-assisted, and low income would be at 10%. That's what I believe the Connecticut law stipulates. So that $750 per unit, does that cover the moderate, that piece of it, or is that to be determined? And Jack might be better at answering that than you.
Well,
Yeah, go for it.
let me just say one thing. The new piece of land are not moderate units. Those will be low-income units. Those will be ratted units. Those will be units that will be taken from the side that we have, that is Mount Pleasant, and moved across the street. There is called the RTO. So we're moving those assisted units off the original property, and we're asking for a venue change, and we're moving those across the street. So those will actually be ratted units and be subsidized by this project.
Is that phase 1, Laura?
That's going to be phase 2. That's
Phase
not
2.
phase 1. Yes, so that's not even before us today. But that's what's going to happen with that unit, with those units.
All right.
And the reason why we're doing that, because that will allow us to build those units first, relocate our existing residents into those units. That way, no one is displaced from phase 2.
And the fact that the housing authority isn't managing and doing all this on its own, aside from the actual construction and development, does that have to do with capacity?
The housing authority doesn't have the experience, and they don't have the financial, how can I put it nicely? I don't want to say they're broke. There you go. They don't have the financial acumen to do it on their own. When we apply for some of these grants, you get points for the amount of liquidity that you have. You get points for the amount of experience that you have. You get points for the amount of projects completed. The Housing Authority, since this is their first project ever, will get no points for any of those. And it will make them non-competitive for these additional funds from like Federal Home Loan Bank and other sources. We wouldn't get anything.
Are you aware of any communities doing away with their housing authorities and this stuff becoming privatized?
So no, I'm not aware of anybody getting away with their doing away with their housing authorities, but in a couple of areas like New Haven, what they have done is, since they've done a few of these, they have then pocketed or saved all of that money from their development fees and then started their own development company. And that way, and since they have a couple of under their belt, now they're competitive themselves to where they no longer need a JHM. They've started their own development arm. If you go to New Haven, and I would advise you to all to go take a look down there, they have the Housing Authority of New Haven, and then they have an offshoot called Glendower. Glendower is their development arm. And then they have another offshoot, which is 360 Management, where they don't have to hire a private management company anymore, like Imagineers or someone like Trinity or anything like that. It goes from one piece, and then they go straight to the other, and all the money stays in-house, in New Haven. It never leaves New Haven. And they also have something called livable cities. And what they do with that is they do their own inspections. So instead of outsourcing inspections to a company that may or may not be in New Britain to manage and do the Section 8 inspections, that's also kept in-house. New Haven has become very good. We have become very, very good at keeping our money in New Haven.
And just one more thing, those are public-private partnerships or a spin-off to a private entity?
Those are all spin-offs of the actual housing authority itself. Because they're moving to work, they can do that. And I am talking to Mr. Hamilton, and we're trying to get you all to be moving to work. It's a process. We have to wait for the list to open, but as soon as it does, I'll be moving you all in that direction. But I will tell you that you do not have to be moving to work to start your own development company or your own management company. They're just subsets of the actual housing authority.
And again, the sole authority in all of this project is the Housing Authority Board.
Yes.
Thank you, Alderman McNamara. Alderman Pabon?
Yes, how many units are we talking about? for the
In
housing?
Phase 1, we'll be removing 63 and replacing it with 79.
63.
We're taking down 63, which will impact 48 families. We're replacing them with 79 units.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. And there will be 5 bedrooms. I'll put that on the record. Phase 2, we'll be actually demolishing 18 units, and for a total of 13 families, and an office space, and we'll be replacing it with 72 units.
Alden, I didn't hear him. Thanks, Alderman Russell. Alderman Gibson, and then Alderman Simpson.
My question was answered. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Asked and answered. Alderman Simpson?
Thank you. So I noticed that the Myrtle Street units aren't included in this agreement. Could you just go over which phase or phases this one focuses on?
This phase focuses on this interior, the Richard Street units. Myrtle Street, I think, is Phase 3. They wrap around the outside of the property. So
Okay.
that will be Phase 3.
So this just covers like phase 1 units?
Yes.
Okay.
Technically, though, Alderman Simpson, the 100 Richard Street address does include what
All of it.
is on Myrtle Street right now. Those are not separately addressed on Myrtle Street.
No.
100 Richard is the master parcel.
That's what is on your tax abatement. That's how the property's legal address is 100. We don't send anything there because that's actually, somebody actually lives at 100 Richard Street, but that's the property's legal address.
Alderwoman Beloin Saavedra?
How many phases are there to this project?
Mount Pleasant is 4. The
4
fifth phase will be elderly and bond.
I'm sorry?
The 5th phase is elderly and bond. And there's technically a separate development, but under the contract, that's Phase 5.
And Ms. Woody, what's the time frame to complete all the phases?
That's going to depend on how much money we can raise at any given time. I can give you a time frame, but it's going to fluctuate based on the amount of money that comes in. If we get congressional funds, if we have just been awarded or told we were awarded congressional funds, however, it has to be signed into the budget, has to be signed into law. If we get it, then the phases move faster. If we don't get it, it slows back down.
So the project isn't waiting for it to be totally funded. As phases are funded, you're moving phase by
Yes.
phase as the money is available for the
Exactly.
phase. For the record, I know Alderman Gibson heard you say that, but I just want to go back to it. He came up to you during the break to ask you about the number of bedrooms per unit because somebody approached him. For the record, would you just say that you
I
are
will
having...
say, for the record, that we will be having 4-bedroom units, and yet, right now, the property has no 5-bedroom units, and we will be building 5-bedroom units to fit current capacity needs. You have 2 families there who require, based on occupancy standards, 5-bedroom units. However, none of your portfolio offers 5-bedroom units, so we'll be building those so that they have some place to live.
So thank you for putting that on the record, and thank you
You're
for
welcome.
addressing the needs of the tenants who live in the Mount Pleasant housing. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Santiago?
Thank you. So on this resolution, it says affordable and market. How many are affordable and how many are going to be market?
In the first phase is going to be 100% affordable.
In the first phase, how many, and after, third or fourth would be the market?
The second phase, we are not sure if they're going to be considered market. So when they say market, our market is not your market. So our market is tax credit rents, because we're applying for tax credits. And tax credit control how high the rents can go. When you say market, you're thinking of a private investor who can charge whatever they want. That's not how that works for us.
So I would think that this resolution would have to be a little bit more clarified than when it says market, because.
Well, technically, that's what market is for us.
Yes.
It's referred to as market for us. It's just that when you're not in our business, you think of it as privately market, and that's not how it works.
Okay. Another question. In the management group, we were just saying Imagineer, who's going to be, because I was told there's going to be a third part, it has to be a third party
Yes.
to manage the Mount Pleasant while this is getting done. Do you have idea who's?
So as the different phases come on board, they are no longer owned. Once the construction is complete, they're no longer owned by the actual housing authority. They're owned by the third-party entity that is formed with the joining of the housing authority and the developer, JHM. And the housing authority comes together, they form an entity, and the entity actually then owns the units. So, and that's why we are able to tax it, and that's why we could also not pay anything if we didn't want to, because the housing authority is still part of that partnership. But they then have, because it's not solely owned by the housing authority doesn't manage it. It's managed by a third-party entity. And I believe that the one that was chosen by JHM was Imagineers.
And was this by bid or was this just by choice?
When they come to us, when we did a RFQ for a co-developer, they had to come with a package. So they had to come with us with a property management company, an architect. It had to be a whole complete team. And when they came to us, that's the team that they came to us with. Now, I'm not sure how they did that process. They just had to come to us with a set team, and that was part of their team.
Well, the reason why I say it's because through you, Chair, this is something personally that I've came across many times where Imagineer was really not a good management company to deal with. Residents had issues with their buildings and not being prepared, repairs, and were forced out so that they would be able to remodel them and then ask for more on those units. And I'm kind of concerned with that being that part itself. I would recommend maybe they go back and look for other management companies, because I know there's plenty of them out there. But I would, solely ask that would be something they would look into.
I can look into that. But I can tell you, and I want to put everybody's mind at ease, RAD when it goes for RAD, even though it stops being public housing, it switches from a Section 9, which is technically public housing. Public housing's managed under Section 9. And it moves over to RAD, but RAD is technically basically a Section 8 voucher that's attached to the apartment unit. It's attached to the unit. So just like with public housing, they could only pay 30% of their gross net income. That's what it is for Section 8. So the only time somebody's rent will go up is if their income goes up or if their expenses go down. So that's the only way that their rent fluctuates. Their income would have to fluctuate, or their living expenses would have to fluctuate. And the good thing about it is, in case of elderly and bond, when you have a development where the person is elderly and or disabled, under this program, and under public housing, but under this program, they're allowed to take off of their gross income medical expenses, any out-of-pocket medical medications, doctor's visits, if they have a service animal or a pet, any veterinary bills, or all of that comes off of their gross income, and then their rent is calculated.
Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Boulain Saavedra.
I just have two more, but I'll wait in line.
It's always you and me, John. It's just always you and me.
Nate jumped in there, too.
I think it sounds fantastic. I truly do. And maybe also to put people's mind at ease, we talked about this in the break, that every person who lives there now that is low income and they're living there under the affordability will have the exact same opportunity when all of this is rebuilt.
Yes, and I want to put this on the record, that way, because you guys are going to get questions about this. I'm going to tell you now, you're going to get phone calls. They do not have the right to return to the same unit because I'm knocking them down. They won't be there anymore. The buildings are not even going to be configured in the same way they're configured right now. They have the right to return to the appropriate size unit in the development. And why I'm specifically specifying that is, right now, you may have someone that we know who's currently living in a 3-bedroom unit by herself because her twins have grown up and moved out. She will not return to a 3-bedroom unit. She will return to a 1-bedroom unit, and which we have none of, but because we did the census, we discovered that you guys need 1-bedroom units. So we're building an additional 28 1-bedroom units to, that way, they can still be housed on the site, still take advantage of all the perks of living on the site, but be appropriately sized housed.
Can you, and this is my last question, how is your footprint expanding?
So what we're doing, the units are looking a little bit different. We have, because we're building 1-bedrooms, we're doing a tower. And on the base of the tower is your community room and all of that. And then across the street, of course, we're having more units. The reason why we're having more units is because we are entering into an agreement with Prudence Crandall. And we are having a set-aside for people who are homeless or are in danger of becoming homeless because they are victims of domestic violence. So we will have a separate wait list, a set-aside wait list for those women with children or individual, or men, sometimes men can be victims of domestic violence too, so who have unfortunately experienced that trauma. We'll have a set-aside list for those. So yes, we will be building additional units, but some of those additional units are set-aside units, and they're set aside for that purpose. We are also looking at, that's for phase 1. We are also looking into phase 2 for having a certain amount of set-aside units for people who are young adults who are aging out of foster care and who are at risk of becoming homeless. So that's what I'm working on now, is to try to get some kind of agreement and some kind of a set-aside for those. I'm hoping to get about 25. I'm not sure I'm going to get that many, but we're hoping to be able to have an agreement put in place for people who are aging out of foster care, because it used to be that female veterans back in the early 2000s were our highest in danger of being homeless. Now it's people between the ages of 16 and 27 who are aging out of foster care.
So let me just say this, Ms. Woody. First of all, I'm very impressed. And the more we talk about Mount Pleasant, the more exciting the project gets for me. One, the guarantee that no one who currently lives there will be displaced was something this council was very concerned about. But now you're talking about having set-asides for potentially homeless individuals, both our young individuals and victims of domestic violence. The project, to me, gets better and better. So I just want to say thank you. I'm supporting this agreement, but I hope beyond this agreement, we get to hear more from you as a council, as your phases unfold, and as the development project moves on. But I just want to commend you for the things that you're doing, and especially for addressing these pockets of individuals as your footprint expands with the project. So thank you.
You're very welcome. I live here too, so anything we can do to help.
Alderman Simpson?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo Alderwoman Beloin-Saavedra's sentiment there, especially having this project being done in phases where the city hasn't had to, or the housing authority hasn't had to expend just vast amounts of resources trying to rehouse people outside of their community. Having it be done entirely in-house, or if people want to leave, right, they still have that option.
Yep.
It's impressive to see that our community can undergo these developments while not uprooting people during the process. So I just want to commend that particular piece. And in addition, I have a question here. The language in front of us says there's going to be a 1-to-1 rate with new construction units while constructing an additional mix of affordable and market. Do we have any idea of what that additional mix would look like? Or are there state minimums in terms of what is affordable housing, or is it up to the developer?
So are we talking about apartment sizes? Are we talking about number of apartments? Are we talking about rent ratio?
Rent.
So because we're going to and applying for CHAFA, every unit, even if it's a market rate unit, will be a tax credit unit and will be subject to the tax credit laws. So the rents can never be charged more than what tax credit says they can be charged. And since tax credit is also its own affordable process, that only their rents are flat rents, that's what it will be charged. We can never go above what CHAFA says is affordable.
Alderman McNamara?
Just a couple, one for you, Laura, and one for Jack. I hope we can wrap it up. The HUD, and we've been told at Housing Authority meetings and elsewhere that everything needs to go according to HUD.
Yes.
The operating subsidy that the Housing Authority gets from HUD, there is a provision for add-ons like payment in lieu of taxes. Now, I understand that J.H. Amherst is making the pilot payments to the city. Is that correct?
Yes, it'll come from the third-party corporation that is formed
Yeah,
between the
now-
partnership with JHM and the Housing Authority.
No, the Housing Authority, does they anticipate getting add-ons from HUD, which will then
So
be turned over to
That-
JH?
When it becomes a RAD unit, they surrender their operation agreement. So they will no longer be getting those funds. They will be getting funds under a different venue. They'll be getting funds through the Section 8 program, which is a different pot of money. So the operation agreement, for us to become RAD, the operation agreement has to be surrendered.
So any add-ons you anticipate for the Housing Authority in this deal, for tenants, for anybody?
There's a couple of things that are surrendered and that we now have to take care of ourselves. The monies for capital improvement, which is why we are partnering with a third party. We have to surrender those, and we surrender the operation agreement. But it's then replaced with the money that we received from Section 8. Section 8 has a larger pot of money. Public housing has been historically underfunded, which is why they're in disrepair. The amount of money that allotted to public housing through Congress is minuscule based on what is needed to fix all the public. Remember, the original public housing units were built in 1938.
Yeah.
So-
Well, it's a disgrace, actually.
Exactly, which is why they came up with this to allow us to switch over to Section 8, to the Section 8 program through the RAD program. We used to have Hope 6, and it worked for a little while, but this is a much better program because this protects the clients a lot better than any of those agreements ever did.
Okay, and Jack, you alluded to, I think the figure I heard was upwards of $100 million to get this all done?
Oh, for the
Through
total project cost, we're estimating over the 4
Right.
phases,
So when-
approaching 200.
Yeah, so you mentioned in working with the Housing Authority, the city's involved in grants and other doing business. What does come back to this council? Can you, is that clear in terms of grants, or what comes back to the council for approval?
What you will be seeing coming down the pike, it really depends on, I mean, right now, a lot, potentially when it comes to authorization to apply for grants, that goes through the Commission on Community and Neighborhood Development. When it comes to accepting grants, there might be some that come in front of you. Likely, we're going to go for brownfields money in the future for other phases. We're probably going to go for another pot of federal money that's out there. There's some state DOH money that they're working to set aside right now that we'll probably go after for a future phase as well. So some of these things, I mean, we're looking at a couple state programs that don't even exist yet for future phases, but the money's there. So I can't tell you exactly what those are going to look like. But there will be a number of different grant programs that we'll be going after over the next couple of years.
Thank you. Alderwoman Scott?
Well, I guess you guys can, I don't know. I just want to thank you guys for coming and sharing all the information. And I'm really excited that it's going to help so many people. I'm just wondering, how is the communication going with the residents that are there now?
So we typically have meetings on a regular basis, at least once every 2 months, or anytime anything new comes to my attention. My most recent meeting that I just had with all the residents, it was brought to my attention by property management that there were some issues on site. So I just had a meeting with all the residents on July 1st, at which time I had to inform them that, yes, you still have to pay your rent. You're not protected by, you have to pay your rent, because some residents thought, oh no, we're good, we're going through this process where we don't have to pay our rent. No, you still have to pay your rent. So they were told that they still have to pay their rent. They were told that right now the Housing Authority is still managing and still owns that property. So if they are legally evicted between now and the time we get the RCC, there's nothing that I can do for them, because I don't own or manage the property at that point. I can't take over the property. Once the RCC is given and the third-party entity is formed and solidified, that's different. But I think they're jumping the gun a little bit by getting a little too comfortable, like not reporting income, or some people saying they want to add grown children and their children to the leases. So I think the most important thing that I can ask all of you to do is, when somebody's calling you, the Housing Authority is still in charge. They have to abide by their leases. They have to abide by the rules that they agreed when they signed to abide by. This process does not absolve them of that. And that's right now, that was my biggest takeaway on my July 1st meeting, because when they showed me the balances and they showed me what was going on, and I went through the ledgers, I was like, yeah, they are a little delulu. They started feeling themselves a little bit. But I believe that some people did come in and make payments, and some people made payment arrangements. But I think that they all just need to understand that we're not moving tomorrow. Nobody needs to pack anything. Nobody needs to find an apartment. And there's nothing happening anytime soon. They will be given at least 90 days notice before anything happens. The whole development is not packing up at one time. It's specific buildings, and those buildings were notified, and they all had one-on-one assessments done for every family. So they know who they are. If the assessment wasn't done, then they're not part of phase one. So just to put their minds at ease so that they know, because anxiety is real. So we just want to make sure that they're not worried for nothing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are worried about it, so that's why I wanted to ask that, so it can be.
And and if you have, Francisco, he has my cell phone number, the mayor has my cell phone number. If you guys have questions or just, want to double check on something, hey, is this person part of phase one? Give me a shout. I'll be happy to look it up for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ju-
I have
just a-
another question.
Okay.
I think it might be for Mary or Jack, I'm not sure. I'm just wondering about the previous contract that we had. In section 5, it reads that we have a percentage, and now we're changing it to a flat, and over the 39 flat rate. I'm just wondering what the reason is for that, if there's,
Sure. So, I mean, this directly ties to something that Ms. Woody was talking about, which is for the cooperation agreement, the existing cooperation agreement basically gathered what's referred to as shelter rent, which is the entirety of the rent income, rent revenue value for all the units across the Housing Authority's realm, and paid a percentage of that. Because this is in creating a new partnership, a new entity that will manage these units, that's why this new cooperation agreement is supplanting that, and the sort of most straightforward way to do it is on a per unit basis.
all right, thank you.
Mount Pleasant will no longer be owned by the Housing Authority, so they will no longer be liable under that agreement.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Barbosa.
Ms. Woody, one question. The Housing Authority is relinquishing its rights per phase or in its entirety?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
The Housing Authority is relinquishing its rights per phase or per entirety?
So the Housing Authority never relinquishes its rights. It always owns the land. The land never leaves the Housing Authority. Even when it becomes a third-party entity, it's still, the third-party entity will never own the land because it's federal. It will always be owned by the Housing Authority. And it's on a per-phase basis, because as JHM, I heard the gentleman in the back had concerns, if they are non-responsive and don't do what we need them to do in a timely manner, they can be replaced at any point during the contract. So we'll take the contract, and I've done it before. Not that I'm mean, but I need my buildings built. So I will go someplace else and find another development who will build my buildings.
So just a point of information, there's an out clause
Yes, there is.
during the term of this very
Yes.
long lease or agreement
Yes.
that the Housing Authority can exercise.
Yes, there is.
And the Housing Authority meets monthly, 5 members.
Yes, they do.
And I think those of us interested in housing, I think all of us are, I think you'll know that council will be paying attention to the board, what
Now,
they
the
do.
board meets monthly. However, I meet with the Housing Authority weekly, every single Tuesday, because I need to know what's going on in the development, because I can't fix it if I don't know it's broken. So I meet with them every week. And I meet with the developer every other week.
Alderman Russell.
All residence meetings are not open to the public. Well, actually, they are. We have at the Center of Excellence. If you want, I told Mayor Stewart that I would send her because we had met with her in August, which was right after we had had the last meeting, but I can send her the agenda when we have the next one.
Alderman Pilbin.
Are we losing units or gaining any units?
You guys are actually gaining units.
Gaining units?
Yeah, because even though they're, in your language, they're market rate, but because the rent is still controlled by CHFA, they're still legally affordable. So you're actually be getting more units than we're taking down.
All right, thank you, Young Lady.
Alderman Santiago.
Quick question. On this 39-year tax the pilot, is this for just this phase, or is it for all 4 phases that the money got?
The rule is for, we're doing it right now. Did you write it for just this phase?
Yeah.
So this is just this phase. However, that rule applies to every phase. So when phase 2 starts and it closes, that clock for them will be another 39 years for that phase. We're going through this right now in another town to where at 15 years, the Housing Authority can exercise its right to buy back the property or buy out the co-developer. In this particular town, the co-developer is Michael. They weren't happy with how it was being run, so they have decided that they are going to buy Michael's out and take their property back. That is also an option.
Thank you. As a point of order or point of clarification, when you say the Housing Authority never surrenders ownership of the land, but you do, the buildings go to the third-party entity, right?
The buildings belong
Thank
to the
you.
third-party entity, but
Right.
the land itself is a 99-year ground lease.
Just wanted to clear that up in case there was any confusion, because the word property was being applied to both, but.
Understood.
Again, the land is never leaving.
Never leaves the Housing
It's just, we're
Authority.
talking about the buildings, the stuff that's being built there.
Right.
All I don't see any other questions. The only one I wanted to just touch on John's question about the selection process, but you hit that. Any other questions? Last call for questions? All right. Alderman Santiago?
Yes, this is not a question, this is not pertaining to you, this will actually to the resolution. I would like to,
Please, sit. Thank you
I would
very
like to
much.
make some amendments. One,
It's still in the, you have to approve the original
oh, okay,
substitution.
there we go, we're still gonna prove that part.
All right, so, thank you very
I was
much
just
for the.
wondering
This,
if we
on
could
the
have
one
a
that we
quick-
have,
I was wondering,
the substitute.
I was wondering if we could do a quick recess. Just really fast.
I have a motion for a recess. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. There will be a 5-minute recess starting at 7:30.
And Neil, maybe you can get with Mary.
Just good cadence. Good evening.
I'm surprised no one asked, where did the people go?
So, for phase one, there's only, even though we're taking out.
They recess? Yeah, I guess, yeah. Wow. It's the seventh inning stretch, Tim, come on. God. Speaking of that, how many Sox do? Oh, it's not seven.
It just started.
Okay, just,
22 minutes ago. Playing the Mets.
Christ. Yeah, I know what we're doing painfully.
Yeah. Dude, you don't want to know. Ooh!
Come on.
This is the first.
It's just going downhill. Oh, no, how extorted. Oh, I did get the AC and then get
Football.
beat up.
Football.
I know, but
Sunday.
come on, this is.
Or no, tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Oh,
My fantasy lineup.
oh my God. Yeah. I just put.
There you go. And it's like what was it? The Family Guy episode where the Mets were terrible. Welcome to Shea Stadium. What a great year for the Mets. First pitch. And there goes the Mets season.
All the other complexes.
Great.
Oh my God. 0 to 162.
Yep.
Like Rippikoff, Kennedy.
Every other. That's unfortunate. Grand Slam. Sox haven't hit a Grand Slam all season long.
Right? They have
Yeah, they
it.
haven't. Not a single Grand Slam all season long. Good.
No, it's so tough for me to watch. Like football, I like Sundays, like Sunday night, Thursday. It's one game, I can do it.
But I put it on in the background. I eat dinner, I clean the house, you do other stuff. It's just nice to have that. The sound of baseball is the sound of sports.
Yes, you're right. I just can't like sit and watch every. Well, I can, but every night.
Yeah, see, I'm just on the feelings, man. I don't know. I'm a glutton for punishment. I love it for some reason.
Yeah.
That sounds like a,
No, my thing is Sunday Night Football. Whatever
Yeah.
game's on, whatever's on,
That
the
makes
kids are
Sundays
asleep.
better.
Just sit. Yeah, I was at a party and someone said, "What do you feel more common?" And I said, "Sunday nights." I said, "Sunday nights? Who likes Sundays? It's Saturdays." And I was
It's
like,
my me time.
"Yeah, that's what I said."
That's my me time.
Yes. Everything's done. I'm ready for the week. Like focused in. I watched my one football game, and then Monday, let's go.
Well, I don't have kids. I'm totally unencumbered, so every day is me time.
Like I used to like Wasteland. It's like I can't afford kids. I'm like, dude, we live in a gated community. You have no bills. Even you guys,
did you get my phone call?
I was the last
Well,
one. Yeah.
it's
I was
changed,
late. I'm still
but-
typing my voicemail.
Okay.
Okay.
I have two boys.
Voicemails.
I have
Okay.
two boys too, and both of them, they're a mess.
5 and 3.
Oh my God, I used to like my kids when they were that age.
Yes, my oldest just started kindergarten.
Really? Which school?
We live in Newington.
Okay,
John Dyer.
okay.
We went to the PTO meeting last night.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I had,
She goes,
I was
having a
away
really
last
tough
week,
time
I came
getting
back,
because
I came back Tuesday,
every
checked my email, it's usually all of my voicemails to this new email.
That's amazing.
Yes, my wife.
That's what you want to hear.
Yes, yeah, not that.
Your son.
Your son.
19 tomorrow, but I only got.
And my wife's a teacher, so that's part of it.
I'll give you a buzz when I get
You
it.
always want your kid to be the good one.
Yeah, we got October 1st is his birthday, so it's my assessment day. So my wife, so September 20th was his due date, so, you know, assessment day. And I told everyone, he's born on October 1st. Everyone told me I was nuts. Every single person. They came, they said,
All right.
October 1st comes.
Make a motion to return from recess?
Motion to return, seconded by Alderman Simpson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a motion that is seconded on the substitute language. I believe we are ready for a vote, except for one more question.
One more question. This was the one about the housing. If the housing, I mean, Laura, I think this would pertain to you. If the housing would take over, the 750 they would have to continue unless we did something about it, right?
Yes.
So that's all.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right. All in favor of the resolution with the substitute language? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? That was a joke. That was unanimous. All right.
That was passed on with a neutral recommendation, correct?
With a neutral recommendation, that's
Thank you.
correct.
No, it's just amended.
As amended.
Oh,
No, we still, now we have to pass.
All right. All right,
thank you. So we, yes, again,
Mr.
so we have item 36576 as amended, as substituted. May I have a motion?
I already made the main motion.
Okay. So just another vote then. All in favor of the amended resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right. The motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Alderman Santiago. Seconded by Alderman Pabon. Thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned at 7:36 PM. If you are in claims, go to claims.
Kid loves corn. We had corn on Sunday. 2 years. 2 years of corn. I want more corn. Yeah, if he doesn't eat if I don't make vegetables for him every night, he'll scream.
Have a good one. Ooh, this.